Over the last few years, I've changed my mind. Over the many years of starting, running, and failing multiple businesses myself, I've come to a realization that ideas are extremely important. Sure, the quality execution of an idea is very important too. I'm not denying that. But having the right ideas matter. In fact, Kunal Shah put this really well, right? He said that people in India are trying to build dams where there are no rivers flowing. In fact, they're building such colossal dams with extremely high focus on fine details, even making sure that every bit of the dam is a masterpiece. But what's the point of building such a dam when there is no water in the first place? It's very easy to look past a great idea because most of these great ideas look pretty stupid in the beginning. When quick commerce first took off in India, everybody said it's not sustainable, that it's a marketing gimmick. But look at the Zepto founders. They had this one insight, that one question: do customers want their delivery faster? And the answer was definitely an yes. And because of that one idea, today they are a unicorn. A startup that just started a few years ago by two teenagers is a unicorn today with a valuation of over $5 billion. This is section 2 of the Indus Valley Report 2025. Now, before we get started, if you're not familiar about the startup space, you don't know what a unicorn is, or not very familiar with all the startup terms like ARR or MRR, seed round to Series A, venture capital, and all the things like that, then this is not a video for you. And if you haven't watched part 1 of this video, you should definitely go check it out before watching this video. This is Varun Kuntur, and you're watching Breakdown by TBH, a series where we break down some of the most interesting reports and studies just like this. Let's get started. The entire Indian startup ecosystem is brutal, and this one tweet by Ashish Sinha sums it up perfectly. After Nammayatri leveraged the open source Beckon protocol to build a mobility solution where the revenue model was to charge a fixed fee for drivers on the app and not take a slice of the fare paid as a commission, all the other mobility players like Ola and Uber had to change their strategy as well. The tweet shows how first world revenue models have to adapt to the unique needs of the Indian market. This section of the report is divided into 4 parts. Funding trends, the IPO boom, deep dive into certain sectors, and lastly, the Indus Valley playbook. If you remember, just last year, everybody from the startup world was talking about how the VC funding has dried up. But in 2024, the VC funding in the US has bounced back and strongly. And India is also seeing signs of a revival. From $152 billion in 2023 to $191 billion in 2024 in the US, and from $12 to $14 billion in India, it seems like the VC money is back in the startup ecosystem. While the US saw large VC funding rounds thanks to AI, VC funding in China was lacking. The Chinese share of global funding went down from the previous 35.8% to just 11.5%. But remember, this was pre-DeepSeek China. Meanwhile, in the US, AI funding alone was a record $97 billion, making up about 80% of the fund raised. But India's VC market seems to be following the 2023 trend lines, but nowhere near the 2021-2022 levels, largely due to the absence of any late-stage capital. If we take a look at the stage-wise analysis of India's VC market, we can see that there was only a $6.6 billion of late-stage funding in 2024 when compared to $28.6 billion late-stage funding back in 2021. But seed funding continues on trend lines, with fewer rounds but larger checks. Larger seed rounds, or mango seeds as it is called, which are rounds greater than $3 million, now make up 50% of funding, while ones that are less than $1 million rounds have dropped. The early stage funding gap is fueling the rise of micro VCs. As seed or multi-stage funds get choosy and prefer to focus on elite founders, a gap is opening up in funding for first-time founders, which is being filled by these micro VCs. There are over 100 micro VCs, many of them founded just recently, and are typically investing $100,000 to $500,000 at seed or pre-seed stage. These funds invest at valuations of $1 to $8 million, taking 3 to 8% stakes in startups, sometimes more. Early stage funding across A and B has halved from 21 and 22, but the average round size has stayed the same. Startups backed by seed funds take longer to raise follow-on rounds as compared to ones backed by multi-stage funds. The average time taken from seed to Series A in a seed fund backed is 33 months, but for a multi-stage fund backed, it is just 19 months. It's also similar when it comes to Series A to Series B. 30 months for seed fund backed and 23 months for a multi-stage fund backed. India is the third largest unicorn factory with a total of 117 unicorns, but very few unicorns have been created in 23 and 24, with just 8 unicorns when compared to 44 unicorns in 2021 alone. But the real question is, do we really have 117 unicorns? According to Bloom, only 91 of the 117 unicorns are truly worth above $1 billion. Of the 117, Zerodha, Zoho and Mu Sigma are bootstrapped. Then there are 7 that are acquired, 14 that are publicly listed, 19 that are soon going to be public, and another 54 that are steadily growing. And there are 20 more that are currently valued below $1 billion. Regulatory changes and strong public markets are driving foreign incorporated startups like PhonePe to return to India, and they are paying huge taxes to do so. But why? Well, there are 3 major reasons. Indian companies want to list in the friendlier Indian public market. Simpler tax norms and policies for them to operate. Industry regulations which favor Indian registered companies, especially fintech and e-commerce companies. Then, why did they register abroad in the first place? Mainly for 2 reasons. 1, it's very difficult to raise capital in India. 2, these companies had planned to list on the US public market. It seems like venture debt is becoming more common as equity funding is getting harder to get. Venture debt market in India is at an all-time high of $1.2 billion in 2023 with a share of 11% of the total funding. Another big shift that's being seen is that sometimes the best investment is in people, not the company. Westbridge investment in WACA, that is Westbridge Anand Chess Academy, has put Indian chess on the world map. Well, WACA facilitates mentorship to emerging and established chess players in India with the hope of creating more world champions. The IPO boom. 2024 was a record-breaking year for Indian IPOs. Both the number of IPOs and issue sizes reached record levels. A total of 1590 billion rupees was raised through IPOs, and India saw 268 IPOs, which was the highest number of IPOs globally, and raised a total of $19.5 billion, making it the highest capital raised through the IPOs in the world. It seems like companies are going public earlier. Revenue of companies going IPO has gone down significantly from 15 billion rupees in 2018 to just 8 billion rupees in 2023. Not just that, even the market cap has gone down from 44 billion rupees to 27.7 billion rupees in 2023. There have been 2 major sectors that everybody has been talking about in the last year. One is quick commerce and the other is AI. While quick commerce failed miserably in the US, that doesn't seem to be the case here in India. This funny tweet clearly shows that India has fully embraced the Quick India movement. Quick commerce is India's fastest growing industry segment ever. With a 24x growth in order value since 2022 and the user base doubling year on year, it looks like quick commerce is redefining India's retail landscape. Currently, the quick commerce market is dominated by 3 players. Blinkit with a 44% market share, followed by Zepto with a 30% market share, and Swiggy Instamart with a 23% market share. Quick commerce players are aggressively expanding dark store network and geographical presence, with Blinkit having a total of 1251 dark stores, Instamart with 1004 dark stores, and Zepto with 1050 dark stores. They also seem to be expanding into more cities in the country. With scale efficiencies, their unit economics has rapidly improved. In fact, Zepto is reaching store EBITDA breakeven in just 8 months. When we take a look at the unit economics of a single Blinkit order with an AOV of 674 rupees, Blinkit makes a revenue of about 131. This is collected in the form of user fee of 11 rupees and commission and ad revenue of 120. If we take a look at the cost breakup of this 131, 5 rupees goes towards discounts, 35 towards delivery costs, 61 goes towards other variable costs, leaving Blinkit with a profit of 31 rupees. The big reason why quick commerce in India works is because India is a poor market for modern retail, like malls and supermarkets. In other countries like the US, the customers went from local retail to modern retail and then to quick commerce. But in India, customers are directly going from unorganized retail or kirana stores to quick commerce. Along with this, cheap labor, low rider cost, and very high population density makes the unit economics work in India. With quick commerce, customers are getting their products faster, cheaper thanks to discounts and a wide selection of items. In fact, quick commerce is moving beyond just a grocery store to become the new everything store. Blinkit today has an SKU count of 30,000 products. Non-food categories now make 40% of their gross order value and only the remaining 60% being food categories. Quick commerce platforms are now replicating e-commerce giants by offering 10-minute refunds and exchanges. To expand their margins, Zepto and Instamart have even introduced their own private labels called Relish, Truly Good Food, and Supreme Harvest. Zepto even reported that Relish has about 18 crores GMV per month in April of 2024. They are also now introducing higher margin prepared food products to be delivered in 10 minutes. With in-house sub-brands, Bistro by Blinkit, Snack by Swiggy, and Zepto Cafe by Zepto, all three quick commerce players have all forayed into the in-house food delivery services. Zepto Cafe has gone from 30,000 to 75,000 orders per day in just 2 months. Their revenue from ads has been a key growth lever and is expected to make up about 5.6% of their GMV share by 2026. There are other quick commerce players now entering the service and fashion sectors. After seeing the success of these players, some of the older players like Amazon and Flipkart are also making their move into this space. FMCG brands are loving the quick commerce wave as quick commerce has started contributing 30 to 60% of e-commerce sales for major FMCG players. Quick commerce is eliminating the traditional distribution modes held by only the big players and is now creating a level playing field between D2C and FMCG brands. We should be seeing a lot more smaller D2C brands eating up the big brands' market share in the next few years. But it's not all good news. It seems like the urban consumer is shifting their buying behavior away from the Kirana stores. And its impact can be seen with the Kirana share of gross value added going down to 22% from 34%. And the Kirana owners are very worried. Quick commerce operators have power and they're not afraid to wield it. Brands are finding it very hard to list on quick commerce platforms. Even dark patterns like hidden costs are starting to appear on these platforms. Coming to the other big sector, that is artificial intelligence. Up until late 2024, this was the AI vibe in India. Sure, there were a lot of these Indian AI startups, but it wasn't until DeepSeek shocked Silicon Valley that more people in India started talking about building foundational models in the country. This tweet from Arvind Srinivas, who is the CEO of Perplexity AI, really makes us rethink our philosophy, and he's probably right too. If you've been able to build ISRO, then building an AI foundational model shouldn't be that hard. But that raises the main question itself. Why didn't India do DeepSeek? It's a share of reasons, starting with India has zero AI researchers. China has been continuously investing in the AI race for quite some time now. The fact is 7% of the top AI researchers in the world are Indians, but none of them work in India. But can India build its own foundational model? Well, we will find out very, very soon. Bloom predicts that we might have some foundational models coming out in the next 12 to 18 months with the government support. And after DeepSeek, there's a lot of confidence too. After all, ISRO and DPI are two great examples of Indian innovation, that too at incredibly low costs. In fact, ISRO's 3 space missions, Mangalyaan, Chandrayaan 3 and Chandrayaan 2 together only cost them less than $100 million. For comparison, just one Boeing 737 MAX costs $138 million. But India definitely has the talent, even though some of our best talent is in the US. If you look at the Gen AI contributions on GitHub in 2024, India ranked second in the number of Gen AI project contributions, just behind China. Plus, we are now getting lots of GPUs too. But even when we look at the AI landscape today, InVideo AI and Presentations AI, two of the largest consumer AIs in the world, are built in India. Here's a quick stat comparing InVideo figures with some of the global AI enterprises. And it looks like more tiny teams of startups will be pulling $100 million in ARR pretty soon. This brings us to the last part of this section, the Indus Valley playbooks. The India 2 playbook is evolving. From 2015 to 2020, the accepted startup playbook was to launch a copy of a Western product, tweak it to the taste of the Indian audience, and their language preferences. But after 2020, it looks like the playbook has changed. Now, there are two playbooks. One is to re-engineer the product from scratch based on the user behavior and benefiting from geo and UPI boost. The second is an emerging playbook of rethinking the entire product around the fundamental needs of the users. The playbook is also evolving to re-engineer the products and make it affordable to the India 2 consumer. Sting was introduced as a replacement to Red Bull. Taakat, a protein bar, was a replacement to the expensive The Whole Truth protein bars. Even Netflix got an alternative with Stage. Founders are even rethinking the product for the specific job to be done, or JTBD, to fit India 2's context. While Bumble and Hinge does the job of help me start dating for India 1 consumers, Friend has redesigned this job to before I can start dating, I need to speak to the opposite sex. Another core feature that's emerging in the India 2 playbook is microtransactions. Instead of a lump sum of say 300 rupees, India 2 is willing to spend 10 rupees every day. And this is leading to a whale and tail model. Indus Valley is also influencing the Indian advertising market. By humanizing celebrities and making fun of them, the Indian advertising market is shifting. While most legacy brands always treated the superstars and celebrities like heroes, these startups are putting them in weird, uncharacteristic twists. And most of these ads seem to have Tanmay Bhatt and the old AIB team behind them. Also, startups seem to really like brand building. After Zomato, more and more startups are setting up their in-house creative agencies and founders are building personal brands to canvas their startups. The currency of trust building is also diverging between India 1 and India 2. While brands are focusing on ingredients, better copy and use of content to market their products for India 1, trust is mediated through celebrity advertising in India 2. Although India 1 brands like Cred also use celebrities for their advertising, it's more to disrupt the pattern and cut through the noise and less to borrow credibility from the celebrity. The big return issue. Indian startups in the consumer space, especially apparel and footwear brands, have a return issue. Around 16% of 720 million products of e-commerce shipments are returned every year. There are two types of returns. Return to origin or RTO, where customer isn't at home or order wasn't delivered, and RTV or return to vendor, where the customer collects and then returns due to wrong item, damages or fit issues. For fashion brands in India, the RTO on their own website is about 10% and 9% on marketplaces like Myntra and Amazon. But the RTV is 14% on their own website and can go all the way up to 39% on marketplaces, putting the total returns on marketplaces close to 48%. As most marketplaces encourage returns, the customers frequently buy multiple sizes and then return the remaining sizes back. Ajit Pai, the COO of Delivery, says there are three factors to consider in reducing the RTO. 1. Speed of fulfillment. Faster the delivery, the lower the likelihood of doorstep rejections. And 2. Prepaid orders have a lower RTO compared to cash on delivery orders. A lot of the consumer brands are now nudging the buyers to prepay, and they're doing this by levying a handling fee for COD orders, making the customers pay a small advance, and even nudging the customers by charging a higher fee for COD orders. GoQuick, an e-commerce enabler brand providing smart checkout and COD enabler solutions, share data on how COD is trending downwards for their brands they support. The percentage of COD orders went down to 50% in 2024, and in Tier 1 cities, it has even gone down to 41%. But when it comes to RTOs, startups are handling it in very different ways. Swiggy is asking its customers to add an image of their door, and Delivery and GoQuick have launched their RTO predictors. But the bigger problem seems to be the RTV, and there are two interesting playbooks to tackle this. One is to prompt exchanges instead of refunds, and two is to offer a try and buy option to the users. This brings us to the last part of the report. Marketing framework for India 0. There is in fact a fourth segment of India other than just the India 1, India 2 and India 3 that we discussed in the previous video. Bloom likes to call this the India 0 or the NRIs. As of May 2024, the total number of overseas Indians worldwide is approximately 35.42 million. This India 0 is well spread out across different continents and geographies, with over 5.4 million of them in the US alone. Their economic power is reflected in high remittance flows incoming to India, and it's the highest in the world with over $107 billion in 2024. This India Zero are the highest earners in most host countries, with an average incomes of $152,341 per household. The Indian culture is also breaking out into the global mainstream. And even global players are waking up to the spending power of this India Zero. This 2x2 grid maps out the different brands and the personas they are catering to. While most brands are targeting people with high affiliation to our country, there is a big gap when it comes to brands targeting the people with lower affiliation to the country. Each of this targeting is done with very unique marketing channels. While brands in this segment are using brand collabs and influencers to break into the market, this segment is using more offline touchpoints like stores, events, and roadshows to build trust and recall. And this segment is doing more retail partnership with global retailers to get their products in front of the customers. Well, that brings us to the end of the report. And I truly believe that this is India's decade. And this decade will be run by startups. Sure, there may be a few companies that may die, but that is okay. As a country, we are evolving and there is a big revolution coming in the form of AI. We will adapt like we always have. That's it for me. Bye-bye.